Okay, so welcome. I also put the link to the workbook in the chat. Plus, it should have been in the email today too. That went out way too early. Um, that was funny when I got it this morning. But anyway, so welcome to the Have Your Cake and Eat It Too workshop, where you'll learn about a non-restrictive approach to eating healthy without giving up your favorite foods. So, just make sure you're comfy. I have the workbook, or if you have a notebook, you can use that too. Either is fine. I'm going to share my screen so you'll see the questions when we have some questions to answer. And then there's chat too, if you have any questions in the chat. And so this should last about 30 minutes so that we can get on with our evening. And let's see here. And if possible, if you can, keep your camera on. If not, I totally understand. Because sometimes we're in a place where we can't. So I've been there. And then, yeah, use the chat. If you have any questions, just let me know. And we will get started. So if you know that there's certain foods that make your chronic illness worse, but you don't want to give them up, then you're in the right place today. If you've been told by your doctor to change the way you eat because of your health, you're in the right place. And if you really want to have your cake and eat it too, like most of us, because you refuse to give up all your favorites, then you're in the right place. Because today I'm going to share with you how you can still eat all your favorite foods. I am Cindy Stickle, a holistic nutritionist and lifestyle transformation coach, and I totally understand your frustration. I help people just like you remove ingredients that make you sick so that you can still enjoy your favorite foods. But why did I start doing this? I was in your shoes over 28 years ago, trying to prevent my gestational diabetes from turning into a diabetes diagnosis. I figured out on my own how to swap a few ingredients in my food so that I could stay in control of my health. I also helped my husband reduce his diabetes medication within a year of being diagnosed with his type 2 diabetes. And just an FYI, I was never diagnosed with diabetes because I was able to keep it away by changing what I ate. So I am so glad that you're here. And I know that the reason why you came is because you love food. You love to eat. So do I. We can't live without food. And you were told, possibly by your doctor, that you had to change your diet. Or you know deep down that you need to change some things and you may not know what you need to change. And I know exactly what that feels like, especially when I had my gestational diabetes. Nobody told me what to eat. They just said, okay, go figure it out. So it's daunting. It's a horrible feeling to think that you have to make these huge lifestyle changes that you don't want, because now you think you can't go out for dinner or enjoy the food that you want or love. And it feels like a death sentence, and you don't want to have to give up all the foods that were your favorites. So like I said, I've been there before. I know how bad that feels, because when I went through it myself, and then my husband went through it and I helped him with it. So today we'll be diving into how easy it is to swap a few ingredients in your favorite foods that will help make your life easier, because you won't be worrying about everything you're eating if it's making you any sicker. So I'm not going to just teach you about food swaps. We'll be going a little bit deeper. And if you have your notebook handy or your workbook, there's the first question that I'd like you to answer, and I will share my screen. I want you to list your favorite foods that you would hate to give up. And I will give you a minute. Let me find this. Okay, so it's the first question. List your favorite foods that you would hate to give up. And if you wanted to put one or two in the chat, you can. It's up to you. You don't have to. But just to have those top of mind, because later on, I'm gonna ask you if you have any recipes that you want me to give you some easy swaps for. I know my list would probably be long to that I would hate to give up. Um, okay, so I will and you can keep adding to it later as well. Some of this in the work book, you may not be able to finish it today just because you may have to think about it. So, which is fine. Okay, so let's look at the next question. Um, chat when I'm sharing my screen. It's a long list, yes. I totally agree. And it's hard, but once I go through some of the ingredients that I want to talk to you about, you'll see how it's not as daunting, I hope. Let's look at the next question. It says, what is going to be the worst part about that for you? So think about if you did have to give up some of those foods. Now, today I want to talk to you about how you don't have to give them up, but what if you had to give them up? What would be the worst part about that for you? I know some people will be like, oh, I have to go shopping now and buy all these ingredients for other food. Or if people with kids, my kids love that. And now I have to give them something different. So cravings. Yeah, definitely. The cravings are, yeah, they are, yes, for sure. I know when I stopped eating sugar, that took a little bit of time to stop the cravings. Well, what would be the best part about that for you? If you were to give up some of your favorite foods for health reasons, okay, what would be some of the best, what would be something that's a good thing with that? Because yeah, I mean, a lot of times we think of the bad stuff and the negative thing and and stuff like that, and we don't always think of the good, like what good can come out of it, right? Okay. All right, so let's move on to you don't have to write in your workbook for a while. So now we're going to figure out how you can actually do this. Okay. So here's the thing. I work with people all the time, and making swaps is not the hardest part. Oh yeah, better health and energy. Yes, definitely. You all are smart. You all are my kind of people. It's not rocket science. You know the difference between something that's filled with preservatives and additives and something that's like a vegetable, right? So you know processed foods versus unprocessed, okay? But the reason that you're here is because for some other reason, it's really hard for you to make these shifts, and you're not alone, okay? It took me a long time to figure this out. So I work with people all the time who want this. It's something they desire. They want to already be on the other side where they feel like they're living a healthy, clean lifestyle, and it feels good and vibrant, and they want to just get there, right? And for whatever reason, they can't. And it's because we have a lot of obstacles in our life. Okay, so work, kids, aging parents, other responsibilities. So our time is sometimes not our time, right? It belongs to other people or things in our life. So now let's look at one of those obstacles. So I'm going to talk to you about desserts first, because I mean, we all love desserts, right? And the desserts are usually jam-packed full of stuff that's not good for us, right? And I'm sure if your doctor tells you to stop eating some food, the desserts are at the top of the list, right? Okay, so we all love indulging in our sweet treats, right? But did you know that by making a few simple substitutions, you can create healthier versions of your favorite desserts? And that's what I've been doing over the years. So you could, if you wanted to put one or two of your favorite desserts in the chat, that'd be great. Mine is ice cream. And because I can't have dairy, I was trying to buy some coconut milk ice cream at the store, which is super expensive for a tiny little pint. It's like $5 for a little pint. So I ended up getting an ice cream maker, and I use my oat milk to make ice cream. And so it's healthier. I add protein powder, and is actually good for you. So, desserts can be fixed. They're, I think, one of the easier things that can be made healthier. But before we dive into the modifications, let's talk about why it's important to consider healthy alternatives. So have you ever thought about how all those delicious cookies and cakes and other desserts might be affecting your health in the long run? Well, it turns out that white flour and white sugar in many of these treats can really take a toll on your body. Consuming too much of the refined ingredients have been linked to an increased risk of chronic diseases like obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even some types of cancers. So while it's okay to indulge occasionally, it's important to be mindful of how much you're eating to protect your health in the future. A lot of people don't understand that things that we eat that are bad for us are toxins that accumulate in our body. And then all of a sudden it shows up as some sort of illness. So it could take decades for that to happen. So let's explore some easy substitutions that you can make to make more delicious and nutritious desserts. So the first ingredient I want to talk about is white flour. White flour is so processed that all nutrients are stripped away and there's nothing nutritious in it whatsoever. And it's super cheap. So that's what a lot of people use. It's what a lot of manufacturers use. So you would want to replace it with whole grain flours like whole wheat, oat, or even almond flour. And those will add fiber and nutrients to it that white flour doesn't have anymore. And you can look for flours that are 1-to-1 equivalent of white flour, because sometimes coconut flour is one where you can't use like 1 cup to 1 cup. So you have to just be careful. But there's so many flours on the market now that you can get that you could do 1-to-1. And then if you are have celiac disease or thyroid issues like I do, and you're avoiding gluten, don't use a whole wheat flour because that still has gluten in it. But you can use almond flour, oat flour, or other alternatives. And almond flour is fine for everyone unless you have sensitivity to oxalates. And some people do. But there's a lot of people out there on social media that are telling you to avoid all foods that contain oxalates. So most foods naturally have it, but you would know if you can't tolerate it. Even for my husband, he being diabetic, at Thanksgiving, I make a homemade pumpkin pie and I make the crust and everything, and I use almond flour so that he could eat it and it wouldn't affect his blood sugars. Plus the whole thing was just healthier anyway, but I just replace any of the ingredients that are not good for him with healthier ingredients and it tastes the same. The second ingredient, now the top 2 ingredients in a lot of desserts are flour and sugar, and they probably alternate between which one is the first ingredient, which is the most, the largest quantity in that product. White sugar is another one. So you would want to swap white sugar with natural sweeteners like honey, maple syrup, or even dates, because it'll lower the glycemic index and it actually adds some more flavoring. I use pure maple syrup, not like Aunt Jemima's or anything like that. It costs more in the store, but in the long run, it's better for you. And you don't use as much because it's super sweet. So you use way less. And I use it in my ice cream when I make it. And like the whole 2 cup, like the pint thing, I put not even a tablespoon of maple syrup in the whole thing. Stevia is also good. It comes from a plant. But you can get powdered form, and that one you don't have to use a lot. It's super sweet. You can also incorporate fresh fruits and vegetables in your desserts for added vitamins and minerals and natural sweetness. Yeah, I love maple syrup too. I put it in my almond milk when I make my oat milk and almond milk. I put that in there like a tablespoon for like the whole quart that I make, just to give it a little bit of a sweetness to it. Nothing too too sweet, but yeah, I use it a lot. So doing these simple changes, you'll be able to enjoy your favorite treats while nourishing your body at the same time. So that's desserts. Now let's talk about condiments, okay? Because this was really the first thing I started changing when I first started this after I had gestational diabetes and when my kids were younger, because condiments have some of the worst ingredients in them, and they're hidden and you don't realize it unless you read the labels. So like ketchup, mayonnaise, salad dressings, we all love them, but many of the store-bought, thanks. Many of the store-bought ones are loaded with bad ingredients that will negatively impact your health over time. So, like I said before, this is where I started my journey. I made ketchup for my kids because when they were like, 5 years old, they put ketchup on everything, chicken nuggets, hot dogs, whatever they're eating. And at the time, you're talking about 20, 22 years ago, there were not a lot of products on the market that were healthier. So you had to make everything from scratch in order to remove the ingredients you didn't want and have control over that. So I was making ketchup from scratch for my kids. I was making barbecue sauce because that is really full of a lot of products that aren't good. And I take soy products out because of my thyroid. I don't eat soy. So a lot of them have soy sauce. So I would use like coconut aminos or something different. But that's why I started making it. Barbecue sauce, pasta sauce. I make a pasta sauce in my crock pot that is whole peeled tomatoes, my spices that I put in, a little bit of olive oil and some garlic, and that's it. And then I put it in little containers, freeze it, and then my husband just thaws it out when he needs it. Um, it's super easy, and you make so much at a time. That means you're only making it once every, month or two. So it's really time saver. But have you ever taken a close look at the labels of your favorite condiments? If it's like super long and there's like more than like 5 ingredients, it's probably not healthy. And if you can't pronounce them, then I would avoid those ingredients. But like I said, there are some brands now like Primal Kitchen, Sir Kensington's. There's quite a few out there that have better ingredients. But like 20 some years ago, I had to make them all from scratch. But you want to look out for the sugars, high fructose corn syrup. Corn is a GMO product and it's also high fructose corn syrup. There's nothing, it's a filler food. There's nothing nutritious in it, and it just adds to our illnesses. Even unhealthy oils and preservatives. This can lead to, weight gain, inflammation, and inflammation is when your body is constantly in an inflamed state, means that it's like you can't fight off illnesses. So you're kind of always in a sort of sick state, and then you just get sicker and sicker. And some of those condiments, the side effects are, increased risk of chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, any metabolic disease. But you don't have to worry because you don't have to give up all your condiments. Like I said, the stores have much healthier ones now that you can actually buy, and or you can make them yourself. Now, some tips to buy them: you want to look for the ones that have healthy oils like olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil. You don't want any soybean or canola because those are GMO and they're just not good for you. Any of the seed oils you want to like avoid. And then look for options with no added sugar, but watch what they're sweetened with, because sometimes they put like agave nectar in there and that's not good for you. They put that erythritol something or other. It's like fake sugar. That's not good for you. Like that bothers my stomach. So I always look for ones that might have stevia or, honey or maple syrup. But yeah, you can watch that. Or if you find organic sugar, that's a better thing because sugar is also a GMO crop. So, but experimenting at home is always fun, and you can use the ingredients you like, and you can make your own flavors of things too. And it's an easy way for you to have control of what goes in your body. Doing it yourself. So yeah, and it's going to help your overall health and your well-being. I like one of my little smaller packages is I work with people. It's a VIP day and I help them go through it's a VIP kitchen clean out. So we spend an hour on their pantry, an hour on their freezer, an hour on their refrigerator, like on Zoom, looking at all their labels and everything in there to help them figure out like what do they want to keep and what do they want to like get rid of. And also in the follow-up email that's gonna have the replay, you're gonna have your condiment recipes that I promised you. So you will have a bunch of recipes that you can make from scratch. So these swaps are easier if you are making food from scratch, like I was talking about. That is the best way to control what you eat. But like I said, there's so many more store-bought products that are much healthier now that you can use. So it's easier than it was 20 years ago when I was doing all this. So is there a recipe or a food that you're curious about how you can make it healthier? If you wanted to put it in the chat, you can. And while you're I'm waiting for that. Pasta is one that a lot of people struggle with. I stopped eating pasta years ago because I had to get away from the white flours because of my gestational diabetes. It affected me, I could tell. And there's no protein in it. And I know in my body I have to have a lot of protein or I don't feel very good. So I avoided pastas. That's why I don't even eat my pasta sauce because I don't eat pasta. But now you can buy so many different pastas that's like chickpea pasta or vegetable pasta, lentil pasta, like so many other ones that have even more protein in it. So I do have those that I eat now, but pasta is a big one that a lot of people struggle with because in our country, pasta has become the main dish and we eat way more than we should. And then puddings, pastas, and potatoes. Yep. And then Italy, where pasta originated from, they eat it as like a side, just a side. It's not the main dish. So we already overeat it. And so that's what makes our health worse in this country. Yeah, puddings. Yeah, I myself would make puddings from scratch. I have recipes that I follow. If I don't have one, I Google it and I look and I see like I want one with, certain ingredients. And I just put in the better sugar, the stevia. I use coconut sugar as well instead of white sugar. Or maple syrup, right? Or honey, okay? And then you could use, if you're making it yourself, you'd probably have like cocoa powder. And then I'm not sure if they're like milk or yogurt. Like I don't eat dairy, so but if you can tolerate milk, then you can put the milk in or whatever the recipe calls for. Yeah, potatoes too. Let's just say I could eat any form of a carb, just saying. But I eat sweet potatoes a lot because they are a little bit better for you. However, white potatoes are not a starch. Yeah, coconut sugar. It looks like brown sugar, but it's coconut sugar and it tastes just like sugar, and it's 1-to-1 use. It's a little bit more expensive. So that's why I like stevia, because you'd have like a little bit, like a little tiny spoonful, like your little fingernail size, and it's like a bigger amount of white sugar because it's just that much more sweeter. Oh, potatoes, but the white potatoes are not a starchy like breads, right? They are a vegetable, and they're a little more starchy, but they're not like a bread. So don't be afraid to eat white potatoes. It's just what you put on them or how you cook them. But yeah, they're not bad for you and you do need carbs and you do need that in your life. But yeah, so all right, so what I showed you today is just are a few easy things you can do right now to not give up your favorite foods. So you can find swaps for pretty much most ingredients that are unhealthy so that you don't feel like you're being deprived. Yeah, stevia is okay to eat. What's another one that I don't like? I forget what it's called. There's monk fruit's another good one, monk fruit. But There's other ones you can always Google and see what people say about it, but I forget the name of another one and it's bad. Monsanto made it. I forget the name of it. But stevia is good. It's like Accutane or one of those. You don't want to eat that at all. It's bad. And I can't remember the name. It's in gum. I can't remember the name of it. I think it starts with an S. But yeah, so I think you're leaving here today with some really good strategies for how you can keep eating the food you love. But here's the thing, just swapping these food, the few ingredients is not actually going to do what it is you want, which I know that what you want is to be someone who's actually living a lifestyle where you're not continuously aggravating your immune system or not causing inflammation. So, and you're not becoming dependent on medication because I don't want you on medicine. I would like to see you become less dependent on medicine. Same with me. I don't take medicine unless I absolutely have to. I have for my thyroid, obviously, but if I cannot do that, if I can fix it with food, I will. And I also know that you're really busy. And I know that a lot of you tell me that you struggle with like how to implement these changes. So, and like you've got a family, not everyone wants to eat all the things that you're changing. And it's a lot. It's emotional stuff, it's a lot of time stuff, and it's overwhelming. So I know that you can use what I gave you today, but I also know that you probably need more to get the right outcomes that you want. And I know that the big outcome that you want is to just be able to wake up every day and feel really happy and live your life and feel healthy and not constantly thinking that you can't eat what everyone else can or that it's just too hard to do. So I wanted to ask you, what's at stake for you if you don't figure this out? You don't have to write it down. Just think about it. Okay. It's one of those deeper thinking questions. Okay. So let me talk to you a little bit about my signature system. We would go through the 5 pillars I created. I created this system myself. So the first thing that I help people with is we focus on restoring your hope, that you know that there is hope that change can happen. Because a lot of people feel overwhelmed and doubtful that they can make changes, and I give that hope back to people. The next pillar is nourish, where you learn how to stock your house and nourish with nourishing foods, and we make the food swaps like we talked about today. In restore, we learn how to restore our stress levels. We have all raised our stress levels and we think it's a new normal now, but really we all need to like lower them. So I help you restore yourself from life's toll and stress. And then optimize, you will create a great relationship with time and gain tools to manage it effectively. That's also where I help with meal planning and prepping and like meal planning with your favorite meals, not anything new to make it more confusing, but incorporating what you already love. And then finally, in the Thrive pillar, you'll ensure that the changes become fully integrated into your lifestyle. So you feel like it's a new normal thing, not hard work. Okay. So we put everything in place for you when we work together. We're building a healthy lifestyle. We're not just doing swaps. We're not just doing products. We're actually going with an integrated change in your life. And I'm there with you every step of the way, all the way to the end. So you're also not going to be thinking that you're actually having to do something every day, right? You're going to be thinking that it's just how life is now, that it's second nature. And it's going to feel seamless with your family because they're going to actually enjoy the changes that you're making too. So if this sounds like something you'd want, then we can talk about it. And in my email, I'm going to have a link to my calendar if anyone's interested. But before we end, I want to do one more thing. Let's come back to make sure that you have a plan. So grab your notebook or workbook, and we're going to get this plan ready just for you. And you won't be able to finish it now. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. But a lot of these changes don't work if you try to do it just like randomly. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. So we're looking on page 2. Hold on, I gotta find my workbook again to share it. Okay. Okay, so we're looking on here. So over the next 4 weeks, you will pick one food or ingredient per week that you're willing to swap, and then pick which food or ingredient you're going to swap it with. How many days are you willing to try for each week? Okay, so for week 1, you're just going to pick one thing that you're going to swap out, either a food or just an ingredient and then put which ingredient you're going to replace it with, or a food, like you mentioned potatoes. So say first week, you're like, all right, I'll swap out potatoes just to see if I can, swap it with something else. Not that potatoes are totally bad for you, but that was just an example. And then do that for weeks 2, week 3, and week 4. Okay. You don't have to do it now. I want you to like take your time and think about for your health what you would like to change. Okay. So yeah, I don't want you to finish it now. And then on the last page, we have these 3 questions, which you also might have to finish later. What is the biggest resistance to making these changes in your lifestyle? So think about what is coming up for you that you think is possibly holding you back. Okay. And a lot of it is mindset. I did it all on my own when I started it over 28 years ago. It's mindset. You're like, okay, it's something I have to do. Okay. Then what are you most afraid of? Okay. So like, why are you afraid to make these changes? Who is this going to impact negatively? Okay. And who is this going to impact positively? All right. So yeah, so just I want you to take your time. I don't want you to rush through these because these are really good. Um, these get you thinking and moving in the right direction towards making some positive changes. Okay. It takes a little bit of working on ourselves to do this. I do this all the time. I still work on myself like every day. Okay. So are there any questions for me? And if not, you can always reach out to me. But I do want to thank you for being here for the Have Your Cake and Eat It Too workshop. I really hope that you did get some golden nuggets out of it and that you will get your 4 weeks planned out so that, you have a little bit of a plan. And I can follow up with you and check in with you in another couple weeks and just see how you're doing. But yeah, I want you to like start writing it down and start trying it. Okay. Even if you only do it for a couple days each week, at least you've done it. So, well, thanks for showing up. It was good seeing you, Paula. And so enjoy the rest of your evening. And thank you for being here.